The physical inventory system is accessed in the Parts and Service module. You'll want to click on the Parts and Service button on the left side of the main menu. This will take you into Infinity Parts and Service. To access the physical inventory system, you're going to go up to Tools in the toolbar, Parts Tools, and then click on Physical Inventory. Now, the physical inventory system is a secured system, so you have to have the proper permissions set up in security. If this is an area which you need to get into and you do not have access, please contact your system administrator so that we can get you set up. Okay, after logging into the physical inventory system, you are going to see your previous physical inventory counts. Now, as in all Infinity grids, you can sort any of the columns ascending or descending by clicking on the description bar at the top of the column. So if I'm looking for a particular previous physical inventory that I've done, I can look by creation date, status, description, etc. Now, you can always go back in and view a previous physical inventory by simply double-clicking on it, and the physical inventory will be loaded into your screen itself. To start a new physical, you're going to click on the bottom left-hand corner, Start New Physical, and this will open up a new physical count window. In the top left quadrant of your new physical count window, you have your count types. If you select the count type over to the right in the note field, you can see a description of the particular type of physical itself. Now, the first option here is full count. This would be for completing an entire inventory of your parts department. This is going to load every single part that you have in master inventory into the physical inventory screen, and you must put a number in there. Whether it is 0 to 100, you have to have a number. So you would only do this if you were going to be completing an entire inventory at the same time. Now, the single bin parts count, as you can see down at the bottom of the screen, bottom left-hand quadrant now, we have a filter which we can install. Now, we would want to do a single bin part count to count parts in a particular bin location. You could either do one location or you could do a range, and this is going to be to count parts only in that particular location. So if you have a part that's in a multi-bin location, you're only going to be counting it in this particular location. So this is a great type of inventory to be doing if you do rotating inventories in your parts department, so that your inventory is always as accurate as it can possibly be. Now, our next option is the cyclic multi-bin parts count. This will load the parts in the filter which you select down at the bottom of the screen. So if we do a range of bins, it will load all the parts that are in bins, say D5 to D6, that have multi-locations, and you will see all of the locations. So even though you're filtered for D5 to D6, you're going to see all the parts in D5 to D6 that have additional locations, and you'll also see those additional locations. So if you wanted, you could do a single cycle bin count and follow it up by a multi-bin parts count to make sure that all of your numbers are absolutely accurate. Now, the next option is parts not counted since, and you say your filter in the bottom left-hand quadrant, hitting the drop-down, is a date range. Here you could go ahead and do an inventory of parts which have not been counted since whichever date you select. The next option is your parts sold during count. This is a wonderful feature that we have in Infinity. You will be able to go ahead and have your parts department open while you're doing a physical inventory, and then after you post that inventory, you would follow it up with a parts sold during count. Select the particular inventory by simply highlighting it, and thereby enabling you to update the actual quantity of the parts which you sold during your physical. The next option in the top left quadrant is your top in percent gross profit count. This will load your physical table with whatever percentage filter you install in the bottom left-hand quadrant. So you could go ahead and inventory your parts that are your top 10% gross profit parts. And the last option is your cycle-specific class source. Now in the master inventory, you have the ability to install a class or a source on any of your parts, and you can go ahead and do an inventory of just those parts. I'm going to go ahead and exit our physical count here because I want to go into the master inventory screen itself, and I am going to show you the fields. You can also do a search for class or source, so it's a great tool to have on hand. If I go into a part which we have set up a source of demo, you can see in the center of the screen. This is something you might want to use. Let's say, for example, you have a large stock of filters. You could go ahead and set up a source for filter, thereby enabling you to not only do physical inventory counts of just your filters, but you could also do suggested reordering by source. You can pull inventory list by source, or alternatively you could use the class field. So both of these fields, when you're going through your inventory, make sure you think about how it can work for you in the physical inventory system, and also, like I said, for your suggested reordering system for your order list. I'm going to go ahead and exit our master inventory. We're going to go back up to the toolbar and click on Tools, Parts Tools, and then Physical Inventory to re-access our Physical Inventory module. Now that we have discussed our various types of physicals, let's go ahead and load a physical. I'm going to once again click Start New Physical in the bottom left-hand corner of the Physical Inventory window. And we're going to go ahead and select the cycle-specific class source. And let's go ahead and do a class which we've set up of our parts of CR. And I'm going to click on OK to load the physical inventory into my window. Now, the setup of the physical inventory itself, across the top of the screen, you have all of your general information. You can see the description of your physical inventory, the type, the status at the moment is open, location. If you have more than one location, I can see this physical has been opened in Company 1. You have a button to cancel this physical. If I hit cancel the physical, we've started it and canceled it. After you create a physical, you cannot delete it. You can only cancel it. But luckily enough, we can go ahead and uncancel at this point by going ahead and hitting that same button again. To the right of that, I can see who created my inventory, who posted the inventory, and then if you have any part number or bin number filters, I would see those installed in these fields. To the right of that, I can see my dates that the inventory was created, posted, and canceled. Now down in the main window of our screen, we have our actual physical itself. Now once again, as in all infinity grids, I can sort any of my columns, ascending or descending, by simply clicking on the description bar at the top of that column. You can also apply a filter as needed by clicking on the icon of the funnel, which is at the top of each column, and filtering for, in this case, a particular bin location. To remove the filter, I'm going to go ahead and click back on the icon and click All to return my screen to its former glory. Now you also have the ability to group your physical. Let's say we were doing a full inventory and I wanted to group my parts by bin location. You see in the dark gray bar at the top of my grid, I have a drag a column header here to group by that column. So if I'd like to group by bin location, I'm going to click my mouse on the bin and drag it up to the row at the top. And now it is going to sort all of my parts by bin location, and I can simply expand just that bin location to complete the physical. This is a great handy tool. If you have hundreds of parts loaded, you can simply sort them by any of the column headers you like. Now to remove this sort, I'm going to once again grab the bin, which is now up in the gray bar, and I'm going to drag it back down to where the grid was previously located. And once again, we are looking at the screen in its former glory. Now our first column is our part number column. The second column is going to be the description of the part itself, the bin location where the part is set up in your system, the quantity that your master inventory states you have of that part in that particular bin location. The next field is your count quantity. This is going to be where you actually go in and you install the counts of your parts. The total on hand is going to give you your total of that part. This is going to be for multiple bin location parts. For example, if you see I have this Honda Accord replacement part in bin location D1, I see that I have 1, but my total on hand is 19, which lets me know that I have another 18 parts in various bin locations. The next column is going to be your plus and minus column. This is going to tell me any variance that I have after I install my count quantity. Next is my cost per item. Then the cost total. The cost total is my total on hand multiplied by the cost per item. And then we have a message field. You have critical and non-critical messages. Your critical messages are going to be your bin locations and your count quantities. You cannot post a physical inventory unless you have a bin location installed and a count quantity installed. The next column is your multi-bin checkbox column. If a part is in multi-locations, you will see a checkbox in this column. Next is entered by. You are going to see your name when you post an inventory count number in the count quantity column. And then finally an info button, which will take you directly to that part in the master inventory if you need to look at it, make any changes, etc. Now along the bottom of our screen, you have first of all a white field with a search button next to it. If you have a full inventory loaded here, I could go ahead and search for just a particular part number by typing in that part number itself and hitting the search button. That will go through the physical inventory that you have highlighted and that you have in your grid and highlight that particular part. Next to that, I have a Hide Counted Parts button. If I check off this box as I install a count quantity, that is going to go ahead and disappear from my grid. If I uncheck that box, I will once again see all of my parts which I've previously counted. So once again, if I'm doing a large inventory, I have a lot of parts. As I'm going in and installing my count quantities, you might want to go ahead and check that off, thereby enabling you to see how many parts you have left to count. Underneath that, I have a series of buttons. Your first button is going to be Print Preview Grid. By clicking on this, that's going to bring up a snapshot of my screen, which I could go ahead and print out if needed. Clicking on Print Count Sheets will go ahead and load your physical inventory count sheets for the inventory which you currently have open. Now one thing I would like you to notice is that these count sheets are sorted in the exact same order that they are sorted on your screen. So in this case, it looks like we are sorted in ascending order by part number. You also have the option of sorting, let's say, by bin location. And then when I click on Print Count Sheets, my parts will be sorted on the count sheet by bin location. Now at the end of our training session here, we will go into our report menu and I'll show you some other options for printing count sheets as well. Our next button is Import and Export. We will also go through that here in a few moments. That is if you're using the optional Scan PAL system. You could just go around your parts department and scan the barcodes and import them into your physical inventory screen. The next button is your Post Count. This is after you have completed your inventory. You can go ahead and post that count, which will save your count quantities in your master inventory. The following button is Save and Exit. And then to the right of that we have two buttons, Set Count Quantity to 0 and Set Bins to None. Now these buttons are here because you cannot post an inventory without having a count quantity and a bin location for every part. So if I try to hit Post Count, I have a pop-up at this moment that says I have critical errors that need to be taken care of before continuing. The red lines are critical. I'm going to click OK, and if we look back at our screen, in our Messages column here, I have a lot of count field is null. You cannot post an inventory without having a count amount. So if I have already gone through and let's say we have done an inventory, I've put in all of my count quantities, and the rest of the parts I don't have in stock, we've gone ahead and given you the two buttons in the bottom right hand corner to make it very easy to post your inventory. We don't want you to have to go around and say, okay, did I do this? Did I do this? You just go ahead and hit the Set Count Quantity to 0, and every part that I did not install a quantity for, I can go ahead and set as 0 without having to hit every line with the 0. So now as you can see in my count quantity field, every part that I did not install a quantity for now says 0. Let's go ahead and try and post our count again. Oops, and we have another critical error that needs to be taken care of. The red lines are critical. I'm going to hit OK and go back to our physical inventory. And our last red critical error is this bottom one here, where it states bin field is null. Once again, you cannot post an inventory unless you have a bin location. Now if this part, let's say we were doing a full inventory and we counted that part, we have no idea where we found it, and we don't want to hold up posting our inventory. The best thing to do, of course, is to put in the correct bin location, but if I can't find that part and I need to move forward, down in the bottom right-hand corner, we can once again set bins to none. And now, as you can see in our bin column field, we have two parts which have a bin location as none. This gives you the ability to go ahead at a later date and pull an inventory report for all of your parts that have a bin location of none. You can go find those parts and update the correct bin location in your inventory. But at the moment, we need to get this posted. So to do so, I'm going to go ahead and click on Post Count in the very bottom of the screen. Looks like we have multiple entries here. Oh, we have the same part in here twice in the exact same bin location. We would want to go ahead and go back to that bin location and count it. We have none in each of these, which is not good. So we would want to go ahead and find that part and make sure we have a correct location. Now, if it's the exact same part, the exact same bin location, I could go ahead and delete one of these lines off by highlighting it, hitting delete on my keyboard, and then I would update the correct count for that bin location in the count field. And then we could go ahead and post our inventory count. Now, prior to or just after you post your count, you also want to print your variance report. This is a very important step. The inventory system, you can always pull it back up and you can pull up a variance report at a later time, but it is only going to remember your count quantities, not necessarily the cost at the time you did your inventory. So if someone has gone in and let's say they changed that cost on that $1 part to $100, it's going to change your variance. So as soon as right before or right after you post your count to your master inventory, you do want to print your variance report and give that to your controller so they can go ahead and update accounting as well. Let's go ahead and click Print Variance, and this is going to take us into the Infinity Report menu. And we have a pop-up. Do you want to print just the parts with variances? I'm going to go ahead and hit Yes. And this is going to create our physical inventory variance report of just our parts, which the quantity has changed. So now I can see my variance. Looks like we lost $2,400. I would want to go ahead and print that out and give it to my controller. Now we could go ahead and post our inventory by clicking on the Post Count button at the bottom of our screen, and we have a pop-up that we have non-critical warnings listed in the message column. We can continue. These are just warnings. Those non-critical warnings are our multi-bin parts. So we are okay to go ahead and hit Yes. And as you can see, now it is updating our parts inventory itself with the quantities which we counted. At this point, we could go ahead and hit Save and Exit, and this will take us back into our physical inventory count screen. Now let's go ahead and start a new physical. I'm going to click on Start New Physical, and this time we are going to do a ScanPal. The ScanPal is the little barcode reader. It's battery operated, so you don't have to have it plugged in, and you can walk around your parts department and do an inventory of your parts. We're going to do we'll just do full count at the moment, but down in the bottom right-hand corner, we're going to check off Start with a blank screen, because what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead around our parts department and inventory every single part. So I want to start with a blank screen, and I'm going to hit OK. And then down in the very bottom center of my screen, I'm going to click on Import, Export, and we're going to go ahead and select our ScanPal. Clicking on Import, you would hit Browse to locate where you have saved the data from your ScanPal reader. Then I will click on Import to import that data into the physical inventory system. After it states my import is complete, I'm going to click on Apply and OK to load my inventory. Now hopefully you have more parts than this in your physical inventory system. Here I can see how many parts I have counted. If this was a true inventory, it looks like in this case we set up D6. I would first want to pull D6 in, and then when I do my count quantity, it will update the count quantity of those columns. Any parts which were not counted, I could set count quantity to 0 and then simply post my count. And after we post the count, what are we going to do? Right after, we will print our variance report. Otherwise, your controllers will come after you, and I don't want you telling them it's all my fault. I'm going to go ahead and exit our physical inventory screen, and what I would like to do at this time is go ahead and take you into the reporting menu, because I'd like you to see your other options for your physical inventory reports. I'm going to go ahead and exit my physical inventory screen, and if you click on Program up in the toolbar and then select Reports, this is going to take you into the Infinity Reporting menu. I'm going to go ahead and click on the Parts Report expansion icon and then the physical inventory reports themselves. We're going to go ahead and click on Physical Inventory Sheets, and this loads your physical inventory report menu up in the main screen. Now you have quite a few options here. You could do physical inventory sheets which are blank, which will allow you to just walk around your store and write down your part numbers. You could redo your variance report, or If you like, you could do the physical inventory sheets themselves for a particular physical inventory. So if you had loaded a physical inventory into your screen, for example, let's choose this one here, I could go ahead and print those sheets. Now I want to go ahead and sort them this time, however. So over to the right of where we selected our inventory, you can see we have sort by, and then we have underneath that a checkbox for group by bin location. I'm going to go ahead and group sheets by bin location. This is going to create a sheet for each bin location, which is a great tool. Let's say you're doing a full inventory and you have 10 people there helping you out. That way you can give them a sheet for a particular bin location at a time. And then after grouping by bin location, I want to sort by part number. So those parts are easy to find on that sheet. And then I'm going to click on Show Report in the bottom right-hand corner. And now, as you can see, I have a physical inventory sheet for each bin location, and the part numbers on that sheet are in ascending order. So this, like I said, is most useful if you're doing a full inventory. You have a lot of people there. That way it's easy for them to say, okay, bin location D6, I'm going to go count it, and I'll be back. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of our reporting menu, and I'm going to load a couple of poll questions for you. While I'm doing so, if you have any questions, please go ahead and type those in at this time. A full count will load my entire master inventory into the physical inventory window. This is an absolutely true statement. Good job. I can print inventory sheets in the report menu. Once again, yes, you can. Good job. I must have a count quantity for every part before I can post. This is true. Always have a count quantity. Always, always print a variance report when I post my inventory. This is an absolutely true statement. The physical inventory system, it You can go back into at any time, and you can also reprint your variance reports. For example, in our physical inventory count window here, I'm going to go and let's open up this physical inventory, which you can see we created December 11th, and you can see that it is posted. I'm going to go ahead and open up that inventory. And if I click on Print Variance down at the bottom, I can go ahead and print that variance report out. The problem is that it is going to remember the quantities but not the costs at the time you did your physical inventory. The cost is going to pull out of your current system. So if we have had a price book update, let's say, and our costs have changed since December 11th, it's going to multiply my total quantity count by today's cost, and my variance is not going to be accurate. So even though you can go in at any time and reprint your variance report, I want you to print it out when you post to give to your accounting department so that they always have that to refer to in case there's an audit. They can show why they changed the parts inventory GL account value. I must have a bin location for every part before I can post. Absolutely true. Good job.
All right, now when it comes to service retail tickets, the customer stopping by to have his vehicle serviced, where should I have that phone?
Posting a count will update my master inventory. You guys have been a great audience. You've gotten almost every question correct. I'm very, very impressed. I'm going to stay online here. If you have any questions for me, go ahead and type those in at this time. I see a couple of my attendees are going to be completing a physical inventory soon. So if you have any questions prior to that, please go ahead and send me an email or give me a call. Thank you very much, and I hope everybody out there has a wonderful day. I'm going to go ahead and also load our upcoming webinar schedule up into the main screen. So as you're typing in your questions, you could go ahead and view the schedule. I will be making the schedule for April here shortly, so as I do so, you will have that available to you on our website as well. And also, if you are receiving our newsletters, you will go ahead and view it. Get the webinar schedule in your newsletters. If you're not receiving your newsletter and you would like to, please go to our website, www.sys2.com, and over to the right side of your screen, there's a link to register for the newsletters. Thank you very much, and I hope that everybody has a wonderful day.